Yo, what is up, Kings? I made a previous video, and I'm glad I didn't publish it yet because I have a kind of a part two for you guys. And I've told you guys in the past, I have video ideas that I jot down and things like that, but usually it's a spark of inspiration and something that piques my interest that I become desirous to talk about. So I've been watching the show called The Americans. I've watched it before, but what spurred me watching it again in a different light is Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer has had this guy, his name is Mark, who I know personally on. He's basically a expert on Russia, Slavic culture, history, America, Russian history. Perhaps one of these days I'll ask him if he'd be willing to come on the channel. But when I watched The Americans before, I did not watch it in the sense that I watched it the last couple of weeks, which is to say, before, when I watched it, I was very much in my kind of milk toast conservatism, milk toast, kind of surface level patriotism, loving America, and just kind of, when I say that, what I mean is like looking at it from the perspective of, oh, fuck these Russians. I hope we get them. They're the bad guys. They're the ones that are the morally corrupt and morally bankrupt, these shitheads. And now, when I watch it, I'm far more knowledgeable, far less naive about war and things like that. And if you're not aware of The Americans, it's a show about two Russian spies who were trained solely with the sole purpose of coming to or going to a different country. I think in the show, the main purpose was for them, from what I can gather, for them to come to America and blend in as American citizens, while also spying and carrying out missions. Fuck, this stupid thing. I hate some of these lights, guys. Sorry. Carrying out missions for Soviet Russia. That is the backdrop, and they have two kids. One ends up finding out about their real job as spies. Finds out about their real background. The male really is fascinated by American culture, and definitely throughout the show comes to admire it in certain regards. He ends up watching, well, not watching, but taking part, and I guess watching what's called EST. EST was a 1980s self-help conference. It was very popular at the time, and he ends up being a part of that. While the wife, on the other hand, is very much patriotic, loves Russia, wants to do everything she can to help her motherland, and there's some conflict in the show about that. But it's a really good show, and like I said, the first time I watched it, I didn't realize this, but it's a really good show juxtaposing the fine line and the gray area that exists between good guys and bad guys on the world stage. And the reality is, and I remember in one of my videos, I commented on the fact that Andrew Tate said this, that if you are somebody, he was commenting on, I believe, Ukraine and Russia fighting, and maybe even Israel and the Israeli and whoever they're fighting, again, conflict, Palestinians, that you are naive if you think that there is such a thing as a good guy and a bad guy in war. So anyways, I've been watching this show, and it made me really interested. And the show does a really good job of juxtaposing that and showing that both sides do good things, both sides do bad things, and most of it is out of this real and fake love of their country. Sometimes they do it as an excuse or use it as an excuse. Other times it is genuine and authentic. So anyways, watching this show from a different perspective, spurned by Jay Dyer and his interview with Mark, yesterday I watched on YouTube a history of what brought on communist Russia, what made it be. You know, I typed in on YouTube how Russia became communist. And it's very interesting, guys. I recommend that you do the same. It's very interesting because you realize very quickly when you see something that spans, 20, 30, 40, 20 to 50 years time, when it is done like that, you realize just how quick history happens and takes place. But you also realize that it may seem like power is insurmountable and like it's this impossible task to change things and make things better and remove power from those who have it. But as I said in my first video, which I will drop as well, all it takes, and this is the thing that mainstream conservatives get wrong, and even I got wrong, it doesn't take the masses, and at least initially, to make change, to implement change. What it takes is an initial group of small, like-minded, intelligent individuals that have a will and a purpose for change. And if that will is strong enough, you can make it happen. Now, eventually, you do need the support of others. But as I point out in my first video, a majority of individuals are what I like to call NPCs. And they will eventually go with anything insofar as they feel that it benefits them and keeps them safe. So, and all of this for me was spurned by watching some of the clips from the America First conference. It is absolutely possible to implement change and dethrone those in power. You guys got to understand. So what made me really realize this, I've kind of known this for a while now, but what crystallized this for me, Russia was an imperial monarchy nation for hundreds of years. Okay, they were one of the longest lasting legitimate monarchies. They outlasted Britain, where the monarchy had and held legitimate power. And even to this day, in certain regards, I get the feeling that within Russia, there's a certain adoration for that system, because, of course, Russia is extremely Eastern Orthodox, which was one of the things that the Bolsheviks had to conquer in order to take over the nation. Now, the other thing is, while it is easier than people realize to implement change, it also does happen very quickly. As they say, Rome fell little by little and then all at once. And that is kind of how it happens, where it's little by little things decay and get worse, and people make mistakes. They're not as honorable and don't focus on the country and the people as much as they do about power and authority. And you do occasionally, well, not occasionally, it happens little by little. And then you also need like a global event or a national event that really shakes things up. And this is why, when some of these conservatives say that they're not in favor of this nation doing this or this nation, it's like, who gives a fuck? Whatever challenges the status quo of America, in my estimation, is good, because we are in need of drastic change. And so whatever interferes with the normal status quo of the American political system, of the people who wield power in America, to me, is good and assists and aids in the chipping down of their power, their grasp on power. So that also aids in the change of change of the status quo. Is a national event. Like for the Bolsheviks, they also had World War One going on, and World War One, number one, changed how people viewed religion slightly. The masses, their money was down, their economy was down, people were hungry. Russia had a terrible czar at the time with a dumbass wife. There's the Rasputin guy who allegedly was banging the czar's wife. So everything kind of was a perfect storm for this change. But on top of it, they had a group of people, a small group of people that grew in numbers, but initially started out as a small group of like-minded individuals that had an extreme desire for change. People don't know this, or a lot of people don't know this. There was actually the Bolsheviks and another communist party that were kind of duking it out before the Bolsheviks won. So these things happen. Number one, it is possible. It's easier than people realize. And these things do happen little by little and then all at once. And you just have to be ready for it. And I don't know what that national event is going to be for America, but we're already seeing it. We're already seeing global and national events shaking up the landscape. So I want you guys to start having an open mind about some of these events that happen and refrain from having the mainstream take on it, where it's like, oh, that's bad. No, they shouldn't do that. No. Have critical thoughts, okay? Think for yourself and really judge it for yourself. All right, guys. DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. Facts are feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, kings. Christ is king. Peace.